Ladies and gentlemen, one of the great traps in human interaction is the instinct to defend yourself the moment someone questions your motives, criticizes your actions, or attacks your character. It's almost primal, an automatic response, hardwired into our biology to protect ourselves from threat. But here's the problem. In the realm of human perception, defending yourself doesn't always communicate strength. More often than not, it communicates weakness. Think about it. The instant you rush to explain, to justify, to clear your name, you subtly send a message, not just to the person accusing you, but to everyone watching, that the accusation has enough weight to demand a response. And whether we like it or not, perception is reality for most people. In psychology, this is sometimes called the impression trap. The mind assumes that if you're explaining, you must have something to explain away. If you're clarifying, you must be in the wrong. Now, I'm not saying that truth doesn't matter. Truth is the foundation of everything worth building, but the delivery of truth and the timing of truth matter just as much as truth itself. If you are constantly defending yourself, you've already shifted the frame of the conversation. You've gone from standing firm in your position to pleading for acceptance. You're no longer the one setting the terms. You're reacting to the terms someone else imposed on you. And here's the deeper danger. When you step into the role of the defender, you hand over your authority. You turn the accuser into the judge. Their opinion becomes the standard you feel compelled to answer to. That's not strength. That's surrender. You've traded your position of self-assurance for the position of someone begging to be understood. And begging is never respected. When you resist that impulse to defend yourself, something remarkable happens. You maintain your posture. You stay grounded in your own truth. You communicate without a single word. I do not recognize your accusation as worthy of my energy. That silence, that refusal to engage in the expected defensive dance unsettles people. It throws them off balance. And in that moment, the power dynamic shifts back to you. This isn't about arrogance or pretending you're untouchable. It's about understanding that the truth will not be established in a heated back and forth. It will be revealed through the consistency of your actions over time. The greatest leaders, the most respected individuals, aren't those who waste their breath defending themselves at every turn. They are the ones who keep building, keep moving, keep acting in alignment with their principles, while the noise of accusation eventually fades into irrelevance. You see, when you defend yourself against a lie, you breathe life into it, you amplify it. People who never would have heard the accusation suddenly hear it in the context of your defense. And once a false idea is planted, no amount of explanation will completely erase it from someone's mind. The human brain isn't a computer where you can delete a file and pretend it was never there. It's more like a courtroom. Once the case is presented, even if it's baseless, the jury never fully forgets that it was brought up at all. The paradox is that sometimes the best way to protect your reputation is to say nothing, to trust that your body of work, your relationships, your consistency will speak louder than any statement you could release in the heat of the moment. Silence is not the absence of a response. It is a response. A strategic, disciplined response that says, I will not allow you to dictate the narrative. And this requires discipline. It's much easier to fire back, to unload your side of the story, to set the record straight. But the momentary satisfaction of defending yourself is almost always outweighed by the long-term cost of looking defensive. You may feel like you've won the argument, but you've lost something far more valuable, the perception of unshakable confidence. So the next time you're confronted with unfair criticism, pause before you speak. Ask yourself, if I respond now, am I defending truth or am I defending my ego? Because those are not the same thing. Truth doesn't need frantic defense. It needs steady demonstration. And the ego, when threatened, will always try to trick you into making a spectacle of yourself. Don't give it that satisfaction. Strength isn't proven in how loudly you can argue your case. It's proven in how calmly you can hold your ground when the world expects you to flinch. Let them talk. Let them misunderstand you. Let them believe what they want. And then live in such a way that their words eventually sound ridiculous to everyone else. Because in the end, the greatest defense is not found in your words. It's found in your life. There's an old saying that words are cheap, and while it might sound cliché, it's one of the most profound truths in human interaction. You can say anything about yourself, claim integrity, honesty, competence, but unless your actions consistently prove those claims, they dissolve into empty air. And here's the deeper truth: when you're under attack, when someone questions your motives or misrepresents you, Your words, no matter how eloquent, will never carry the weight that your actions can. The human mind is biased toward what it can observe, not what it hears argued. You can tell people you're trustworthy, but they will only truly believe it when they see you making trustworthy choices again and again, even when it costs you something. You can tell people you're competent, but that belief will solidify only when they see you producing results over and over, regardless of circumstances. In this way, your life becomes the ultimate courtroom, and your daily actions are the only testimony that really matters. Now, when you choose to defend yourself with words, you step into dangerous territory. Words can be twisted, taken out of context, used against you. They're slippery. But actions, genuine, consistent actions, are far harder to manipulate. Over time, they form a pattern that even your harshest critic will struggle to refute. That's why when you face false accusations, the most effective thing you can do is keep living in such a way that your reality outpaces their narrative. It's almost paradoxical. The harder you try to convince people of your innocence through argument, the more it looks like you're trying to sell them something. But the more you simply carry on, working with discipline, treating people well, staying aligned with your principles, the more the truth becomes self-evident. Eventually, those who were quick to judge will be forced to reconcile the picture they were given with the reality they see. And here's something crucial: people are not persuaded as much by reason as they are by experience. This is why you can't simply talk your way out of a false perception. People must see the contradiction between the accusation and your ongoing behavior for themselves. That's what begins to shift their view. Not your insistence, but their own observation. This principle applies in leadership, in relationships, in business, in every arena where credibility matters. Think about the people you admire most. Are they constantly explaining themselves, or are they simply so consistent in their values and work ethic that you don't need an explanation? The answer is obvious. You trust them because you've seen enough to know who they are. Their reputation isn't built on what they said in moments of crisis, but on what they've done day in and day out. This requires patience, and patience is a discipline in itself. Because when you're misrepresented, everything in you wants to rush in and set the record straight. But that's when you have to ask yourself, am I in this for the quick emotional relief of defending myself, or am I in this for the long-term clarity that only my actions can provide? Choosing the latter means accepting that the truth might take time to be seen. It might take weeks, months, sometimes years. But when it is finally seen, it is far more unshakable than anything you could have argued in the moment. There's also a deeper, almost spiritual dimension to this. When you let your actions speak for you, you place your trust not in the volatility of human opinion, but in the stability of reality itself. You're saying, in effect, the truth doesn't need my frantic defense. It can stand on its own, and I will stand with it. That's not passivity. That's conviction. And make no mistake, people notice this. They may not comment on it, but they sense it. The person who refuses to be drawn into petty disputes, who remains focused on their work and principles while others are shouting accusations, gains a certain gravity. They become harder to discredit because they've demonstrated a rare kind of self-control. In a world where most people are quick to react, restraint becomes a mark of power. So if someone lies about you, resist the urge to fight them in the arena of words. Win in the arena of reality. Outlast their noise with the steady rhythm of your consistency. Let them speak. Let them speculate. And then live in such a way that over time, the contrast between their words and your life becomes undeniable. Because in the end, the loudest truth is the one you live, not the one you argue. There's a principle in human interaction that few people truly understand: silence is not weakness. In fact, silence can be the most strategic move you make in any confrontation. When someone accuses you, mocks you, or tries to provoke you, there's an expectation, almost a script, that you will respond. They're ready for your defense, your explanation, your outrage. And when you don't give it to them, you disrupt the entire psychological rhythm of the exchange. In psychology, there's a concept called cognitive dissonance. It's the discomfort a person feels when reality doesn't match their expectations. When you refuse to defend yourself, you create that dissonance in the mind of your accuser. They expect you to fight back. They expect you to justify yourself. But when you remain calm and unmoved, you force them to sit with their own words. And in that silence, those words often begin to echo back to them in ways they didn't anticipate. This is where you gain a psychological advantage. Because the one who controls the tempo of the interaction controls the power. When you're the one rushing to respond, you're playing on their timeline. But when you slow the conversation down, when you withhold your energy, when you speak only after careful thought, or sometimes not at all, you're forcing them to adjust to your pace. And your pace, if it's calm and measured, will always be harder to attack. Now, I'm not talking about the kind of silence that comes from fear. That's avoidance, and people can sense it. I'm talking about deliberate, disciplined silence, the kind that communicates, I am not threatened by your words. That kind of silence speaks volumes. It sends a subtle but powerful message that you are not playing the same game they are playing. Think about high-stakes negotiations, courtroom trials, or even great military strategies. The most effective leaders and strategists are not those who react to every move their opponent makes. They are the ones who know when to hold their position, when to let the other side exhaust themselves. And in everyday life, the same principle applies. If someone is trying to bait you into a defensive posture, the best thing you can do is stand still. Let them throw all their energy into the attack while you conserve yours. There's also an element of dignity in silence. When you refuse to defend yourself against every criticism, you're essentially saying, my character will speak for me. My history will speak for me. I do not need to perform for your approval. That kind of quiet confidence is magnetic. People notice it. Even those who might have doubted you will feel the weight of it. And here's the irony, silence often makes people more curious. If you respond defensively, you satisfy their expectations. They hear your side, and they can poke holes in it. But if you remain silent or give only a brief, measured reply, they're left wondering what you're thinking. That uncertainty works in your favor because it shifts the mental burden onto them. They have to grapple with the possibility that you know something they don't, that you see the situation differently, that you're simply unbothered. Of course, silence isn't always easy. It requires emotional control. It requires you to master the urge to correct every false impression, to resist the itch to set the record straight in the moment. But if you can master that, you will find that your influence grows. People will begin to associate you with strength, not because you shout the loudest, but because you never seem rattled. This doesn't mean you never speak. It means you choose your moments. You speak when it matters, not when you're baited. You speak when you have something worth saying, not when someone is trying to provoke you into wasting your words. And in between, you let the silence do the work for you. So the next time you feel that urge to leap into your own defense, pause. Breathe. Remember that silence is not surrender. It's strategy. Let them talk. Let them fill the space. Let them wonder why you're not playing their game. Because in that wondering, they will begin to see who really holds the power. The most powerful voice you will ever have is the one you don't use. One of the most overlooked realities in life is that your energy is not infinite. Your time, your focus, your emotional strength, these are finite resources. And yet, so many people waste them in a battle they can never truly win, the battle of proving themselves to people who have already decided not to see the truth. When you defend yourself to someone who isn't open to understanding, you're not clarifying the truth. You're pouring water into a sieve. It doesn't matter how much effort you put in, nothing stays. That's because their perception of you isn't built on facts or logic, it's built on their own biases, insecurities, and sometimes even a desire to see you fail. You can't reason someone out of a position they didn't reason themselves into in the first place. Every moment you spend defending yourself is a moment you could have invested in building something that makes the defense unnecessary. Think about that for a second. You could spend an hour explaining why you're competent, or you could spend that same hour producing results so undeniable that no one needs to hear an explanation. You could spend weeks clearing your name in the eyes of a few critics, or you could spend those same weeks creating something so impactful that their opinion becomes irrelevant. This is why the greatest revenge against falsehood isn't argument, it's progress. If someone is determined to misunderstand you, let them. And while they talk, you move forward. You build, you grow. You make your life so strong, so undeniable, that their words dissolve in the shadow of your accomplishments. The truth is, most people who try to drag you into defending yourself aren't interested in fairness. They're interested in distraction. They want you so consumed with justifying your existence that you have no energy left to advance. It's a form of psychological theft, stealing your focus from the very work that could prove them wrong. And this is where discipline comes in. Because not defending yourself doesn't mean you don't care about truth. It means you've learned to care more about where you're going than about what they're saying. It means you've learned to put your energy where it will multiply, not where it will be drained. The irony is that the more you grow, the more criticism you'll attract. People will misunderstand you, misrepresent you, even deliberately lie about you. And the higher you rise, the more tempting it becomes to address every voice that speaks against you. But if you take that bait, you stop climbing, you plant your feet to argue, and in doing so, you halt your own ascent. Instead, you have to see your energy as sacred. You have to guard it like a precious resource, because that's exactly what it is. Every word you speak, every thought you focus on, every emotional response you give, it's an investment. And if you're investing it into battles that don't matter, you're bankrupting your future. This is why some of the most successful, respected individuals in history have been masters of strategic neglect. They didn't fight every fight, they didn't answer every critic. They knew that their mission was bigger than any one person's opinion. They chose their battles carefully, and more often than not, they chose to let their work speak for itself. It's not easy to do this. It requires a kind of inner security that can only be built by knowing your own value, independent of outside approval. But once you develop that security, you'll find something powerful. The less you defend yourself, the less you need to. Your energy is no longer wasted on convincing people of who you are. It's invested in becoming so undeniably yourself that even your enemies can't help but notice. So ask yourself, do you want to spend your life defending the work you haven't finished? Or do you want to finish the work so it doesn't need defending? Do you want to spend your time convincing people you're worthy? Or do you want to build a life that makes the question irrelevant? Because in the end, you don't win by silencing the critics. You win by outgrowing them.